In today's video, we're going to be analyzing the current state of every single current active championship in the WWE today, which means we'll be looking at the main roster titles, NXT titles, men's titles, women's titles, tag teams, singles, mid-card, main event, all of them. We're going to analyze every current champion, how their championship reign is going, how the division of that championship feels, and ultimately we're going to decide whether or not these championships feel prestigious or not. By the way, we tend to do this video about every 4 months or so just to give us an opportunity to analyze the landscape of these. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Don't forget, if you are looking for more than just daily wrestling content, I do encourage you to come check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get so much more extra content that we can never upload here on YouTube. So come check it out, link in the description or link in the pinned comment. All right, let's get started. All right, let's kick things off by talking about the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, these championships have always been a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes they're at the top of the world, appearing on WWE Premium Live events, and at some other times, they're completely irrelevant. Unfortunately, right now, we're at one of those moments where these championships are entirely irrelevant. The current champions are Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and to their credit, they were able to take these championships and defend them at WrestleMania, so ultimately, that's good. These championships were important enough, at the very least, in the eyes of the WWE, to be defended at WrestleMania. We even had a championship change at WrestleMania, only for the titles to come right back to Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. However, these titles are on a complete standstill at the moment, almost to no fault of their own. These championships can't really be paraded around the WWE at the moment. They can't be defended. You can't really have a division when the champions can't defend because one half of the champions isn't on the WWE roster at the moment because they're filming a movie out in Japan and aren't on WWE TV, that of course being Liv Morgan. Obviously, that's not Liv Morgan's fault, and it certainly isn't Raquel Rodriguez's fault. I do question if WWE knew that Liv Morgan was going to be away for an extended period of time and wouldn't really be able to defend these championships and really wouldn't be able to showcase the tag team division without the champion there. Why give the championships right back to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez? Obviously, the championships are going to benefit significantly from the return of Liv Morgan, but even when Liv Morgan returns, I fail to really see where these championships can really go. In the absence of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, there's been pretty much no women's tag team action at all. No women's tag team matches, no women's tag team storylines being developed. I can't really name you what women's tag teams exist really outside of like the Secret Hervis at the moment. Doesn't really help that they let go of KC2, one of like the only like viable women's tag teams that the WWE had in the last round of releases. When I look at the current state of the division, it's in complete shambles. Basically, we're at a point where WWE basically just has to concoct a random assortment of women that are in singles purgatory and say, you're a tag team now, and all of a sudden, that's the makings of our tag team division. And that, to me, doesn't particularly scream a healthy division, and if you don't really have a healthy division, then you don't really have a place for the champions to go to create meaningful storylines with these championships whatsoever. So between the start-stop nature of their reign, the fact that the championship reign is on a complete hiatus at the moment with Liv Morgan being gone, the fact that there is no division, I think it's fair to say that these championships are in cataclysm mode at the moment, if you ask me. Hell, there was a movement for people saying that to just can the women's tag team championships altogether based on how bad the division is at the moment. Oh yeah, I forgot they completely got rid of everybody from PFC, and now of course you have Zoe Stark being hurt. I think really all you've got is Asuka returning and aligning herself with Kairi Sane to go after these championships, because at the moment this division is completely non-existent. These championships are not prestigious at all whatsoever. So the state of these championships, bad, real bad. Moving on to the World Tag Team titles, a set of tag titles from Monday Night Raw. We know that the current champions are the New Day, and okay, so they put the championships on the New Day. They are a heeled set of tag team champions, but really that's where the story starts and ends, because this tag team division, even though they've done a much better job over the last several weeks post WrestleMania to actually like develop and build a division, is still a completely dead division if you ask me. These tag titles are basically relying on the nostalgia and the historic nature of the fact that the New Day is holding these titles, but outside of the New Day, the only viable tag tag teams are the War Raiders, who really fail to connect with the audience pretty much every single time that they make an entrance or in their matches. As much as I do like their matches, they're just simply not over, and the crowd is just not gravitating to them. There is American Made, but that's a little bit of a clash considering American Made is also heel, New Day is heel. So ultimately, when I look at the tag team division, there is a big, serious gap for an over babyface tag team to really be what the New Day goes up against. Because just feuding with the War Raiders just ultimately isn't going to draw attention or make people care about the tag team titles or the tag team division, which is ultimately why I found it really kind of weird that they had Fraxium go to Friday Night Smackdown, albeit I love the fact that they're having awesome matches over there, but I really thought that Fraxium could have been that babyface tag team to really go after the New Day. Right now, that tag team doesn't really exist, which kind of makes it feel like the New Day are holding these titles kind of in a vacuum. There's nothing or anybody that's really going to be going up against them that are, one, a threat, or two, make sense as your next tag team champions, and most importantly, three, a babyface tag team that the crowd is really behind. So obviously the New Day is a legendary tag team, but this division is in shambles. The championships do not really matter a heck of a whole lot. They barely get showcased on Monday Night Raw as it is. You might be lucky to see the New Day and the championships on a commercial segment during Raw Netflix, but those segments aren't even seen by the majority of fans that are watching in the United States. So the state of these tag titles, the state of the division is also bad, albeit right now not as bad as the women's tag titles. Now let's talk about the WWE Tag Team Championships, the set of tag titles from Friday Night Smackdown. The current champions are the Street Profits, and honestly, they're doing a great job at being champions. I will say the one kind of confusing thing about the Street Profits is that sometimes they're kind of heelish, sometimes they're kind of babyface-ish. It's kind of weird to know exactly like where they lie on the morality side of things when it comes to a traditional WWE babyface or heel, but they're still doing a great job. They're having great matches. They're defending the titles. They are basically featured every single week as champions. The division itself is featured heavily every single episode of Friday Night Smackdown. I will say, I think that that's so far been the biggest benefit, maybe the only benefit of Friday Night Smackdown being 3 hours, is that they need to fill out that show, and WWE has decided to fill out the show with tag team matches for the championships. Hell, we just had that legendary TLC match. We just had the addition of Fraxium into the tag team division. They have a championship opportunity coming up. So WWE is honestly doing a great job at continuously showcasing these championships, making the championships feel special, because a bunch of reliable, important feeling heel and babyface tag teams are constantly going after the championship. The matches that they're having for the championships are fantastic. The champions are over. Many of the tag teams are over. Honestly, the SmackDown tag team division continues to absolutely kill it. The biggest question mark, or maybe red flag, is that it seems like WWE is allergic at putting these tag team championships on any sort of PLE. All of the most recent championship matches have been on Friday Night Smackdown, but I do think that is a symptom of WWE saying, well, we need something to pad out the 3-hour Smackdowns, so we'll do it with marquee tag team matches, which again isn't the worst thing. So the overall state of the division, it's in great shape right now. It's very, very healthy. The NXT Tag Team Division and Championships, let's talk about these for a second. The current champions are Hank and Tank, who dethroned Fraxium and in turn kind of removed the most vital part of the NXT Tag Team Division, who was called up, Fraxium. So now there is a huge void in terms of overall star power in this tag team division. When I look at the tag team division, it's kind of slim pickings, and honestly, this was always a problem, even when Fraxium was the champions. I always said that beyond Fraxium, there was a big drop in terms of quality and in terms of overall star power in that NXT tag team division. I love Hank and Tank. I think they had a great match against Fraxium, but they're just simply not on the level of Fraxium. And even beyond Hank and Tank, the tag team division is quite murky. We have the likes of Out the Mud, who recently returned. We have The Culling, led by Sean Spears. You have maybe Dark State being in the division, but they've not really entered into the division. They still kind of just attack singles competitors throughout NXT. So right now, unfortunately, the tag team division is in a bit of a reset and in a bit of a tough spot. But hey, at the very least, they are featured every single week. So they are still trying really, really hard. The champions are charismatic. The champions are over. The big problem, and it has been been the big problem for the NXT Tag Team Championships for a long time, is just the depth of the division. There is not much depth to it at the moment. So I'm going to say that the current state is like meh at the moment. The Women's North American Championship, pretty much anything to do with the women's set of championships across NXT is always going to be in good shape, because the division in the women's roster on NXT is just so goddamn deep. The current champion is Sol Ruca, and she is in a very deep division. Honestly, you could include, like, off the top of my head, like 7, 8, maybe 9 different women that could be viable options to go after the championship. The ones that are currently surrounding it are certainly people that are on the cusp of being able to make that leap towards like the main event scene on NXT, the likes of Zarya, formerly known as Delta. You have Kalani Jordan right there as well. You have Jada Parker that at any moment could be going after these championships. You could have somebody like a Tatum Paxley. She's got a new character development going on. So even those that are going after the championship, those that are kind of like in the lower mid card, there's plenty of those that could be called up to go after this championship as well. The division is healthy. The champion is over, both with the crowd, both with the online crowd. She is fantastic. Overall, the health of the division, the health of the title is in great shape. Is it feeling prestigious? Absolutely it is. This is in a great shape. The Women's United States Championship, unfortunately, it doesn't quite have the same depth as the Women's Championship over in NXT. The current champion is Zelina Vega, one of my favorites. You guys know that I do love Zelina Vega. She recently dethroned Chelsea Green. However, this championship is certainly not without its current struggles. The struggle has certainly been partly depth, but also booking in general. The booking of Chelsea Green as a champion was utterly atrocious. She lost match after match after match, constantly non-title matches, non-title tag team matches. She lost the actual championship. So it was a rough run there for the last like couple of months of Chelsea Green's championship reign. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that brought down the prestige and overall importance of the Women's United States Championship. Depth has also been a problem. We haven't really had a great revolving cast of people going after this championship. It doesn't really go beyond Michin and now Zelina Vega. And right now, it doesn't really go beyond Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green. I'm happy that the former champion is getting a championship program to potentially go after this championship again. But unfortunately, when I look at who could be added to this, all of the women that could be added to this are busy being in bigger programs and in bigger feuds. In my opinion, if you want to help the US Championship, you should have somebody like Julia be added into this division. Maybe they could follow suit with what they did with Monday Night Raw and have somebody like a Becky Lynch. In this case, it would be somebody like a Charlotte Flair. I know that's like saying Voldemort around this world, but if Charlotte Flair were to be in this division, all of a sudden this division would matter a little bit more. So there is still a long way to go for this championship to truly feel special. It obviously doesn't help that it's not been able to make it onto any PLE at all whatsoever. At the very least, the Women's Intercontinental Championship finally got the PLE rub. The Women's US Championship is still trying to find its footing. So I would say that currently it's in the not greatest shape of the Women's Intercontinental Championship, on the other hand, is on a major upward trajectory. Unfortunately, this also suffered for a long time, similarly to the Women's United States Championship. But the biggest problem for a long time for the Women's Intercontinental Championship scene was that it just was never featured. We had a great champion in Lyra Valkyria that would be difficult to find. Like, she would miss multiple episodes of Monday Night Raw in sequence. We rarely got to see the championship get defended. When it did get defended, it was in a great match. Unfortunately, I will say that in the early portions of the championship reign for Lyra Valkyria, she was, although putting on great matches, struggling to really connect with the crowd. And recently, with the addition of Becky Lynch into the picture, the Women's Intercontinental Championship has really just skyrocketed in terms of overall importance, and it feels like a really prestigious this championship now. It certainly didn't help that the championship did not get to have a WrestleMania spot, even if the champion was at WrestleMania. It also didn't help that during the press conference, Lyra Valkyria, even though she was a double champion, didn't get to basically speak at all. But post WrestleMania, with the heel turn of Becky Lynch is like using her star power to help catapult this match into a PLE spot at Backlash, then using the fact that Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria have just excellent chemistry, and Lyra Valkyria is one of the best workers in the women's roster right now, to have an absolute banger of a match has really drawn eyeballs and overall care to this division. Lyra Valkyria is getting attention. Lyra Valkyria is drawing reactions. People care about Lyra Valkyria, and I couldn't say the same thing about Lyra Valkyria 4 months ago. Now, beyond Becky Lynch, there's still the likes of somebody like Bayley that could be inserted into this division that would make logical sense. However, beyond those three, it's kind of slim pickings. I kind of want the feud between Becky, Lyra, and the insertion of Bayley somewhere down the line to really carry us all the way through to the summer, because WWE hasn't been doing a great job at elevating the lower mid-card women on Monday Night Raw to maybe like take a step into the Women's Intercontinental Championship scene. So that could be seen as a problem, that it's kind of relying on some of the older names like Becky Lynch and Bayley to make it feel special and important. And you can only really rely on that for so long. But as it stands right now, at the moment, at the making of this video, this is the healthiest that the Intercontinental Championship has ever been. The NXT North American Championship, right now, the champion is Ricky Saints, which I think is a pretty cool badge of honor for WWE to give somebody that's just jumped ship from AEW. It's not their first time doing it. They already did it with somebody like Ethan Page with the NXT Championship. So overall, pretty cool. In terms of the importance of this title, I feel like it's kind of losing a little bit of its steam. It certainly feels like it's lost a lot of its steam ever since Obafemi dropped this championship. It didn't really get to feel like that important and that special under Tony D'Angelo, and it's yet to really get off the ground during Ricky Saints' reign. I feel like WWE and NXT are just trying to find the guy that they can build this division, because after Obafemi, they tried, like I said, Tony D'Angelo, they tried Sean Spears, and now we're at Ricky Saints. So we'll see if Ricky can be that guy to really help bring back this important prestige to the North American Championship. It does help that the championship has some opponents going after it. It's had the likes of Javon Evans recently go after it. It has a brand new awesome up-and-comer named Sean Legacy, and obviously Ethan Page is still in the picture. He went after the championship at Stand and Deliver. He's still feuding with Ricky Saints in a really fun feud, but there is still room to grow in making this championship and division feel special again. It has the tools. They're right there. We just sort of need Ricky Saints to really be able to take this title and truly run with it and make it feel special. So I'll say that the outlook looks good. It's just not the greatest at the moment. I'll say things are okay. The United States Championship. This thing is currently being held on lockdown by Jacob Fatu. In terms of how this championship is feeling, I say it feels incredibly important at the moment. I think it's cool that it got to be defended at WrestleMania. That's always a good sign that the championship has a feeling of overall importance if WWE is willing to give it that big WrestleMania spot. The fact that they're putting this championship on somebody that's very clearly a top major player for the WWE somewhere down the line, much like they did with the IC title and Braun Breaker, to me signifies that they see this championship as a good jumping platform for somebody that they can build a brand around in Jacob Fatu. And the division right now is kind of by default the main event scene from the men's side of things on Friday Night SmackDown, because with John Cena being a part-time champion, it kind of means that this championship has to sort of fill the void, and WWE has done a great job at filling the division with main eventers, with the likes of LA Knight, with the likes of Drew McIntyre, former champion Damian Priest, the current champion Jacob Fatu, former head of the table Solo Sikoa. Like, there are some really big names that are hovering around this championship, which again makes sense because you kind of need to add important names to the title that is kind of the only top men's title that you have from a singles perspective that's there every single week. So almost by necessity, the US Championship is really healthy, really strong. The champion feels incredibly important. The championship feels important. The division is stacked. So things are great for the US Championship. The Intercontinental Championship, on the other hand, I don't think is anywhere near as healthy as the US Championship is on Friday Night SmackDown. The current champion is Dominic Mysterio. That's awesome. I love Dom. I think he's a great choice to be an Intercontinental Champion. However, I don't think that the WWE has done a great job at following up the WrestleMania victory. Yes, he had a match at Backlash with Penta, but that felt like a rushed program, a program that was always sort of meant to be filler anyway. Now with the addition of Roxanne Perez by Finn Balor, I feel like maybe things are going to be leading towards Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor. But as it stands right now, I do feel like this championship has lost a little bit of its luster ever since Braun Breaker lost the championship. It certainly doesn't help that Braun Breaker got moved to the main event scene and showed seemingly no interest to go after this championship again. It's not in a terrible state. However, it's certainly been in a better state. Again, I really like the champion. The championship reign is still really, really young. I just feel like the surrounding cast around the championship is, I would say, the weakest it's been in a really, really long time. So I'm going to say things for the IC title, they're okay at the moment. They're all right. The NXT Women's Championship, like I said earlier, anything related to the women's division on NXT is doing great. The current champion is Stephanie Vaquer, one of my favorite champions on the roster right now. She feels like a final boss in the women's division. They have done a wonderful job at booking Stephanie Vaquer. It certainly helps that they've had her go on Monday Night Raw and have wins there. She had an amazing match, albeit it didn't go all the way to the finish with Io Sky, and she just feels like a big draw on NXT. So they have a perfect champion at the moment. And the lineage of the Women's NXT Championship over the last year and a bit has also felt special. So it's not as if Stephanie Vaquer had to make this championship feel special from the ground up. She inherited a championship that already felt special. And even though the division lost two of its most significant main eventers in the women's division in Roxanne Perez and Julia, who literally just was the champion right before Stephanie Vaquer, normally that would signify that the division is in a bit of a reset, that the championship is in a reset, that things don't feel as special, but it's NXT. Immediately, they've signed Jordynne Grace, who's now going after this championship, and after Jordynne Grace, there's a whole lineup of women that could be called up to the women's main event scene that would be right at home and people would get excited for. This is why having a strong, healthy division for your championship is really important, because it can just be a revolving door. Anyone that holds this thing can just sort of coast and continue to make the championship feel special. So between having an awesome champion, between having a great division, the prestige of this championship is at an all-time high, I would say. Things are great for the Women's NXT Championship. The Women's World Championship, this thing is in a bit of a weird situation, all right? So the current champion, Io Sky. You guys know I love Io. She's awesome, great champion. I'm excited to see what they do with Io moving forward as the champion. However, it feels, at the very least, like WWE is really struggling at finding somebody that could be in the main event Women's World Championship picture on Monday Night Raw that isn't named Rhea Ripley. Don't get me wrong, she's super popular, the most popular person. It makes sense for them to be constantly in the World Championship picture. However, it does sort of feel like WWE is sacrificing building around the Women's World Champion at the moment for the sake of just continuously running Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky again. And the champion was embroiled in a feud that ultimately led nowhere. This thing with Julia and Roxanne Perez never really got paid off. I mean, I guess we had a tag team match between Rhea and Io Sky and Julia and Roxanne, but then Roxanne and Julia were separated. They're no longer a thing. Julia is on Friday Night SmackDown. So now we're kind of at ground zero with the Women's World Championship, and ground zero is literally just named Rhea Ripley. Here's the thing, having your World Championship being held by the incredibly popular Io Sky and your top contender being the most popular woman in the industry, I would say Rhea Ripley, isn't the worst place to be. The problem is that when you look at the depth beyond Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, there's some concerns to be had there for sure. Certainly there's names like maybe Roxanne Perez could be in the picture, like Liv Morgan could be in the picture, but right now, as it stands, they're just so separated from the world title picture that they're just not in the world title picture at all. So it's a weak division that's being spearheaded by two super uber over talented world champion caliber people in Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. But beyond that, there's cause for concern for this championship. And that's been the case for a really long long time, by the way. The overall depth of the Women's World Championship division, WWE hasn't really done a great job at making it feel like there's this revolving cast of women constantly going after this championship. It certainly doesn't help that before this, it was somebody from Smackdown that they had to bring in Bianca Belair. But then beyond that, it was Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan for like 8 months. So I'm going to say that this championship is fine. It certainly could be better. The WWE Women's Championship on Friday Night SmackDown. This thing is in a bit of a heater of a run. The current champion is Tiffany Stratton. And unlike over on Monday Night Raw, they do have the revolving cast of constant opponents gunning after Tiffany Stratton. She just survived Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. She just survived Nia Jax in an awesome, hellacious match on Friday Night SmackDown. We have Jade Cargill in the mix. We now have Naomi in the mix. And so there is lots of bodies, lots of names, all of which feel special and main event caliber that are gunning after this championship. So the current state of the championship, thanks to the fact that the champion has just had an excellent match with Nia Jax, the fact that the champion is a fairly over babyface, the outlook of the potential matches that she could be having are quite appetizing, and matches that I want to see and storylines that I want to see unfold. The fact that the top tier women of the division are having feuds within one another that are not reliant on the championship. To me, this screams about as healthy as a division as you could possibly get. Again, kind of the polar opposite of the women's division over on Monday Night Raw. I would dare say that none of the women that are in the picture on the Friday Night SmackDown side of things are as popular as Io and as Rhea Ripley, but there's way more depth to be able to work with. So I would say that the current state of the Women's Championship is fantastic. Over champion, having great matches, a vast depth of options in the division, matches happening within the division that aren't reliant on the championship. Again, this is about as healthy as a division as it gets. The championship is in a great spot. It feels important. It feels prestigious. Good stuff. The NXT Championship. This thing is also in a bit of a reset. The champion is Obafemi, and the champion feels important. The champion feels really prestigious, and by default, the championship that the champion is holding feels really important and really prestigious as well. Unfortunately, I'm going to say that this division is a barren wasteland. The men that could be going after this championship are like nowhere near to be found around this championship at the moment. You have Trick Williams, who's busy in TNA, and maybe by the time that you watch this video might be the TNA World Champion and is going to be in TNA maybe for the foreseeable future. The other one is Javon Evans. Javon Evans got shifted from the World Championship picture to the North American Championship picture there, at least as of the making of this video. I will say they had one of my favorite matches that I've seen in NXT history at Stand and Deliver, but they haven't done a great job of following it up. I will say at the very least, NXT is trying new faces. They just have Miles Bourne win a battle royal to go up against Obafemi at Battleground. That's great. I love that they're experimenting with new faces and new names. I will say it felt kind of out of nowhere and a little bit rushed that they just moved up Miles Bourne, but that to me screams that they have a lot of faith in Miles Bourne and the future prospect that is Miles Bourne. I just don't feel like they did the greatest job at like easing us into it. They're just sort of like trial by fire. Here we go. And the next PLE is Worlds Collide, which probably means that Obafemi is probably going to have an exhibition match against maybe somebody from AAA or TNA for this championship. So I think it'll be a while before Obafemi kind of has that like meaty feud where his championship truly is in danger. Because I do like Miles Bourne, but I ultimately just see it as a stopgap feud for Obafemi. I don't see him losing this anytime soon. So here's the ultimate situation. We have a champion that's over, a great champion, scary champion, prestigious champion, which then means prestigious championship. I just feel like the main event scene for NXT just sort of feels weak. So I'm going to say things are okay, but they could certainly be better. The World Heavyweight Championship. If the internet was going to be believed, this championship would be in the doldrums. This championship would basically be garbage after Jey Uso won it from Gunther at WrestleMania. Here's the thing. I was skeptical about Jey Uso as champion, but I'm kind of digging the championship and the character that he's playing with the championship as well. I don't think it's like the most like in-depth character that there is, but I don't hate it. I feel like the reason why things are going well right now is because WWE is doing a much better job at booking Jey Uso's short championship championship reign compared with what they did with Gunther. Think about Gunther's championship reign. It just sort of felt like we never really got going. Like he never really got to go up against like a fun cast of different championship opponents. It was for a long time pretty much just Damian Priest and like Jey Uso. Like that was pretty much the entirety of Gunther's reign. Meanwhile, Jey Uso, in the month that he's been champion, has already had like the likes of Seth Rollins gunning after this championship. They had a great championship match. Now we have Logan Paul. Now you have Gunther still in the picture. You have the Money in the Bank briefcase that's about to enter the ecosystem that could change everything. And he's being included in maybe like the most high profile feud at the moment with everything that's going on with CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. Sure, the champion has only really been able to defend the championship once. He hasn't been able to get on a PLE as of yet. He's about to go on to Saturday night's main event. I'm sure that he'll have a match at Money in the Bank, but I would say things, for as short as the reign has been, are definitely looking good and they're on the right track. The division, like, it's full. Like, people are gunning after this championship. So I gotta say that the division, especially having Seth Rollins in there, the top heel in the WWE, in my opinion. I know John Cena's there, but I think Seth Rollins is the top heel in the WWE. That certainly like pushes this championship reign and the overall importance of the championship up. So although things aren't perfect with Jey Uso at the moment, I think that the outlook is really positive. The division feels strong by default because the division feels strong. The champion feels like a fighting champion. So even though things could be better, I think things are good. And now let's wrap things up with the WWE Undisputed Championship. We know that the champion is John Cena. And there's some things to talk about for sure. It certainly doesn't help that the championship reign was started in such a foul way. Not in a way where it's like, oh, dastardly evil John Cena. It was just bad. The way that the 17 was achieved, the way that John Cena became champion, made this championship reign start off immediately on the wrong foot. Obviously, we're talking about John frickin' Cena. Like, by default, the fact that he is a heel, which still, by the way, blows my mind. One of the top heels in the company running around with this championship that many people believe he doesn't deserve. Just the fact that it's John Cena holding this thing makes this thing feel important and prestigious. That will never change. This championship feels incredibly important. The reign, however, sure, there's certainly a lot to be desired. I really like the match against Randy Orton, but I feel like part of the reason why there's a lot to be desired is that we went from a champion that was there every single week to a champion that sporadically shows up. And not having the championship there every single week to build storylines and feuds sometimes means that the feuds that John Cena has have to be rushed. The Randy Orton feud was incredibly rushed. The stuff that we're about to have with R-Truth, incredibly rushed. And that wouldn't be the case if the championship and John Cena were there every single week. So that is just sort of by default hurting this championship and its overall feel. This is the WWE Championship at the ultimately, it's going to have a revolving cast of people going after this thing. We already had Randy Orton. I'm sure that we're going to have Cody Rhodes gunning after this championship. Maybe we'll have CM Punk. That's already been teased. So the names that make sense to be going after this championship are like stratosphere level of stars, mega stars that with any combination of these matches will close any PLE with John Cena. But I will say, I felt like the championship felt more important currently under Roman Reigns and under Cody Rhodes. I know that there's still a lot more to see from John Cena's championship reign, but so far what I've seen, isn't the greatest thing ever. I'm excited for the future outlook, the future matches that can be had with this championship reign, but just the simple fact that there's this rumor that he's going to be teaming up with Travis Scott at Money in the Bank makes me want to vomit. Things are okay with this championship. They certainly have been infinitely better before. It obviously is an incredibly prestigious championship. That has not changed. John Cena is holding it at the end of the day, and the conversation is who will stop and save WWE from John Cena that's going to take this championship away. That in itself is a really intriguing plot device to make any babyface feel incredibly important and super over. So that's good. But again, things have been better for this championship. All right, folks, I will leave it there. This was a little bit of a long video, so if you stuck with me, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.